most of the times I give a talk, I start with like a story about like poop or something, like just something funny, because I like to laugh and yada yada. But like I just want to cut right to like where we are at as a people tonight, where we're at as a church, where we're at as a world, where me and you were at, where I'm at. I'll just start there. Like, this is where I'm at. There's just a part of me that, like, I think about me and God, and I think, man, it's a pretty like unfair relationship. I'm not real good at following God. I don't have much to offer Him, and He offers me everything. And a lot of times, all I feel like I can offer Him is brokenness. So I want to share a true story with you from a week ago, from last weekend, where and it's kind of like a weird story, and it's kind of embarrassing, but it's a story where I accidentally lit myself on fire. And when I say lit myself on fire, like, I'm not talking about like I burned my finger on like a bowl from the microwave or something. Like, as you will hear, I was like engulfed in flames. And what happened was we just moved out to the country. We live pretty close to here, but anyway, we were enjoying the country life, and we were having a fire. And it had been like pretty wet earlier in the day, and this is even the worst part of the story. Is like we have a bunch of visitors over, like a bunch of these missionaries from Vagabond Missions, that to the nonprofit that me and my wife run. And so all these people are over at the house, and I'm like, oh yeah, the fire's like, it's not starting real well. I was like, well, I got an idea. Like, I got a giant can of gas in my truck, and I wish I could tell you, like, this is the first time I had like used gasoline on a fire, but it wasn't. But before the other times, I just threw a little gasoline on there, everyone, woo, and then it just stayed lit, And so anyway, I grabbed this enormous can of gasoline, and it had a long spout on it. And I, for whatever reason, I could like see it happening. Like, I poured it on, and it must have been because it was so full, but it just kind of slowly kicked back. And as it did so, the fire just followed the stream, like it was like a rope was on fire right into the gas can. And the entire gas can just caught on fire. And I was like, oh, and everyone was like, and I, for whatever reason, still like thinking like, I got this, I can fix this, we'll all get a laugh at, I like quickly pulled the thing back from the fire, thinking that it would like maybe like shoo the flame out, or I don't know what I was thinking. I was just thinking I could take care of this. And as I flipped it back, it like flicked all this gasoline on me. And like immediately, because I'm holding a can of gas that's on fire, like I just caught on fire. And it was like my shirt. It was just like my entire shirt was on fire. And I just didn't know what to do, so I like had the can of gas, and I was like, kept thinking it was going to blow up, so I was like, I threw the can of gas. And I just like the one thing, like, and I don't even know if they do stop, drop, and roll training anymore, but I feel like that's the only thing I remember from my school years is like stop, drop, and roll. So I was like, I knew I had to stop, drop, and roll, but like the thing they always tell you is like, don't run, And it's the first thing I did. I threw that thing, and I was like, yeah, I was like running, and my whole shirt was like it just looked insane. Like, and everyone was screaming, and they were like, take off your shirt, take off your shirt. And I just, because like, I have such a nice body, like I hear that a lot, So it just went right over my head. It's just another day, in the life of Bob Lesnefsky. And I was running, and I knew I had to do the stop, drop, and roll thing, but it was like on this really, like, it was on a slope. It was like on the foundation of my barn. And so I was trying to like get off, and I was running as fast as I can to get to the grass. But then I was like, it was like burning me, So I just dropped down on all these rocks. Like there was no dirt. It was just a bunch of like rocks and gravel. And I'm like going like this. I'm like, oh, you know. But it's not doing anything because it's not like dirt, it's not grass, and my shirt is covered in gasoline, and so I'm going like this, and it's not doing anything. And I remember like it was long enough to think like, dude, I'm gonna be like covered in scars, like, you know. And then thankfully it was like something broke through, like, and I just, you know, like if you can imagine this in slow motion, me pulling off a flaming shirt off, it was like, it was awesome. All right, but I pulled off the shirt. And I mean, like all of my like thankfully I like only had like minor burns on my torso, and like, but like all my chest hair and stomach hair and back hair and every armpit hair, it was gone, dude. I like, it smelled so bad, like, and everyone kept saying like, wipe the dirt off, like as I took a shower, and they're like, you still have dirt all over, but it was just like burnt up hair, like it was so gross, dude. I could have left that part out now that I like am saying it out loud. But the point is this, okay? The point of the story is this, like, this is the situation we find ourselves in tonight. You know, like we were at the, you know, the well, not we, but you were at either a men's or women's session earlier today. You know, Father talked about this, you know, like the brokenness and the cycle of brokenness and sin in our lives, and even like just despising ourselves. And all of us, like the kind of the similar situation we all find ourselves in is like we're on fire. Like, you know, like I feel like a lot of my most powerful retreat experiences, retreat experiences is when like I woke up and I'm like, my gosh, like I'm on fire. And even though we know we're not supposed to run, it's just like this instinctual thing that we're like running away from God. Like we're running just around in circles. Like we don't know what to do. It reminds me of another story. My little brother told me they were going down to North Carolina for a vacation, and they were driving on the highway, and they saw a car in the other lane that was just flying, like it was there were concrete barriers, and he was just flying the other way. And they could see he was an old man, and they thought maybe like he had a stroke, so they didn't know what happened, and so they turned around, and thankfully like there weren't a lot of cars yet on the highway, but they sped next to him. They were screaming at him, pull over, pull over, pull over. Finally, like in a couple miles, they got him to pull over, and they ran over there. And when they got there, he said to them, excuse me, he was a little like, you know, like shaken up, and he was like, I knew I was going the wrong way, I just didn't know what to do. You know, like, you know, like I know it seems like, oh, just pull over the car. You know, like he was just trying to get out of the, you know, and that's kind of where, like, in between those two stories, I feel like that's where we find ourselves as a church, as a people, as a world, as individuals. Like we find ourselves like we are hurting. We are in this place where we're literally suffering, dying, flailing, burning. The ship is going down, and we have no idea what to do. And here's the plot twist. You couldn't be in a better disposition tonight. If that's you, you couldn't be in a better spot. I was talking to a girl this afternoon who was sharing some personal stuff about her life with me, and it was tough because some of it, like it relates, like I could really relate to, you know, like just like you know, we didn't get into everything, but like for me, like I have some serious, like that little spoken word thing I did in the beginning. I wrote that as I was trying to like work through like just an intense hatred of my father. You know, my father left my family, like he wounded me, he wounded my mom bad, like there was just like this, and I didn't know what to do with it. And it's like that story in the beginning. You're like, what do I do? But the thing that unlocked so much for me as a child of God is realizing there's no better place to be in before God than desperate and honest. So if you're flailing tonight, if you're running around on fire, if you're going the wrong way on the highway, if if your ship is sinking, if you have had some wounds revealed to you this weekend, if you have had some sin revealed to you this weekend, like the thing about that story in the beginning is like, it was my fault. Like, I'm not just saying like, oh, and poor me, I caught on fire. I knew it was like dangerous. It just seemed so easy. It seemed fun. I mean, it's a lot like sin, right? Like, it's just like, whatever, like didn't really think of the consequences, and all of a sudden I find myself dying. And that's what happens to so many of us. And it's possible that your eyes were opened this weekend in such a way that you're like, wow, this is where I'm at. I have no clue what to do. And I would tell you that I think if you look on any page of the gospel where Jesus does something wild from a miraculous standpoint, the predisposition, the prerequisite is that the person was either desperate, honest, or both, okay? And so if you find yourself in one of those spots tonight, you are in the best possible spot that you can be to receive the graces of God. Like, you were standing on the edge of a threshold of God, just this access to God that most people most of the time do not have. Because we learn from a very young age that if we are vulnerable, like, a baby isn't like this. At first, a baby, they're hungry, they're smelly, they want to be held, whatever. They just cry. But then at some point, like, we get made fun of for crying, like in grade school, or being weak, and then, like we put on some armor. Hey, thanks, Father Dominic. Good man, thank you. And then if someone gets through that, like we just put on thicker armor. Like, and this cycle continues where we're just like, we can't let anyone see. And so most people, most of the time, are not in this position where they're being very honest with the people around them, with God, or even themselves. And so if you are at a place where you are vulnerable tonight, if you're at a place tonight or this weekend where you've recognized, man, I really need God, that's the best place you can be in. And here's the other kicker. All right? Like, when I'm like thinking about a talk, when I'm thinking about a plan, when I'm talking to people, I work at the school here, like I'm the campus minister here, and like when I'm talking to a student, like I like giving them a plan, like, oh, here's what you got to do, just do this, say this to this person, like maybe you should think about praying this scripture, whatever, it's like I like to think through that thing. But the reality of like the game plan, if that's the spot you find yourself in tonight, and this is good news too, is you don't got to do anything. Like, your role is nothing besides the fact that you will admit, oh crap, I really need God. That's all you got to do. Like, if you could admit that, if you can get to a place with yourself tonight and with God where you could be honest and admit that you need Him, He does everything else. Like, we see story after story of healing. Father talked a little bit about the hemorrhaging woman this afternoon. Just this idea that this woman just with her fingertip brushes God's, the clothes of Jesus and is healed. She didn't do anything. She didn't say a special prayer or, roll on the ground 3 times and, somersault into him or something. Like, her finger brushes him. One of my favorite scriptures to meditate on, and I do it a lot, is the scripture of Bartimaeus, who's just a blind guy, just sat outside on the road. He was the weird guy in town. And he just sat out there day after day. Everyone thought he was weird, thought he smelled. Jesus comes strolling into town, and even though there was probably tons of people around him, he saw Bartimaeus, and he walked over to him. And Bartimaeus knew he was coming. He's like, Jesus, And then Jesus just crouches down next to him. And he says, what is it that you want? Like, could you imagine that? Like, having God, all right? Like, seeing Jesus do miracles, and then He just comes up to you. You're like, oh, maybe you come into town, like, you come into a thing like this, and you're like, oh, cool, yeah, I want to see what's going to happen. Maybe Oscar is going to do something cool on stage, or maybe they're going to sing something, I'm going to cry, or this is going to happen, or whatever. But, like, you don't necessarily, like, aren't expecting someone to come up to you and God to look in your eyes and crouch down in front of you and be like, what is it that you want? But that's where you find yourself tonight. And it's through no It's not because you did anything. It's not because you deserve it. Outside of the fact that you belong to God, like he finds you in this crowd tonight, and he comes up to you and he says, What do you want? So what is it that you want? Like, do you need to just know that you're loved? Do you need to know that God is real? Maybe you need some kind of miracle. Maybe you need hope that, I don't know. I know for me, like I said, I wrote that longing for God, that little thing there, just because it was just me saying to God, like, look, I'm a mess. I feel like I'm in darkness. I struggle with anxiety, with depression. Like my family's a mess. I worry about money, or I worry about and I'm worried, God. I don't know what to do. And in that, God says, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? And our only thing that we need to do is to draw close. And when we draw close, the God that we're drawing close to, all right, just remember this, okay? Like, God did not come down from heaven on like a gold water slide, Like he came down, like he became one of us. He became a baby that was, couldn't control his own bowels, like he lived a difficult life, and then he died on a cross. And when you think of the cross, like we have this is such a pretty cross. The cross, honestly, in actuality, like it's not very pretty. It reminded me of I was looking, reading the news the other day online, and one of the things I was like down the story, it was like, see graphic video of these men kicking an old woman, like they'll be in jail, like, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna watch that. You know what I mean? I can't handle that. That's really like what, like the cross, like the idea, like we can't handle. That's why we paint beautiful images of the cross. I mean, also because that's where our victory comes from. But we clothe Jesus, who was naked. We touch up his wounds a little bit because it's human modesty, because we can't, to really look at what the cross was. I mean, it was Jesus not only saving us, okay? Because this is the thing we always hear, like Jesus took our place and he saved us, and that's the central thing is that Jesus died our death, that Jesus paid our penalty on the cross. But the thing I want you to think about tonight, in addition to that, if you have a chance, I want you to consider Jesus on the cross tonight. And I want you to consider that he enters into your suffering. He enters into your human condition, that he says to you, I know what it's like to be lonely. When you look at him on the cross, the night before, all his best friends ran away when he was arrested. He says, I know what it's like to have your friends turn their back on you. He was disfigured. He says, I know what it's like to struggle with your body, or a body image. Like he says, Father, why have you abandoned me? Like he says, I know what it's like to feel abandoned by your Father. Like he suffers, and he suffers not only for us, but he suffers with us. And that's the kind of God that's going to be with us tonight.